Hello, and welcome back to End of Life Conversations with the Reverend Annalouiza Armendariz and my
Yeah.
dearest, the Reverend Joaquil.
So good to be here.
So good to be back at our weekly, what is it? Our weekly missives?
A weekly
Dispatches?
dispatch, yeah.
A dispatch. Dispatches from the other side. Well, today we are going to do a little something different for our listeners because I am going through my own personal crises. And I'm going to share this with everybody who listens, who checks in on us. Sam's mom.
Right.
Right. Um, I have just returned from a 10-day trip to go take my son to California for college searching. And it's, it's a time that many people have encountered with their own children, or even if the kids aren't going to college, there is a shift that happens when we're in relationship with our children or even community members who leave and move around. But there
Mhm.
is a shift. And I have had the displeasure of being with my son, who also lives with his dad and has formed himself in the way that he reflects back to me a lot of aspects of his father, which for 10 days was very hard to sit with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I came back from this trip and I had a conversation with Joaquil last week about how distressed and just really, I just got cracked open for
Yeah.
a myriad of reasons. And I can't, and I'm not going to want to categorize other reasons.
Yeah.
And for a hot second, I said, maybe this is my midlife crisis. You know, the time when you just get crushed by your child and you
Mm.
just, you just wake up and you're like, who am I? What am I doing? Where have
Yeah.
I been? Where am I going? And so Joaquil and I talked about this as a form of I am in crises. In spite of the fact that I smile and I show up, I have been weeping. For those of you who have been on our podcast for years, know that I'm very not a weeper, and I've started like crying at the drop of a hat and just
Mm.
seeping
Mm.
tears, which I'm not holding back. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you know, grief hits us, and right now, I think the grief that I'm sitting with is the disappointment that I have not fully grown into the potentially the soul that I was called to be on in this timeline.
Yeah.
And, feeling the questions, even as I'm asking sharing with my son, like, find the place that makes you feel good. You don't have to choose anything specific, and being really supportive on his path. I realized that I turned it around for myself and was like, where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing? Who are you? What's important? What's the value? And I realized that like I'm not living my full truth. Like,
Yeah.
and it makes me really upset. It's been making me feel crushed and despair. I just feel like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I so appreciate that. And I so appreciate your vulnerability and willingness to share with me, of course. And we've been doing this for years. So, but sharing it here on the podcast, I think, is a real service because so many people are, without a doubt, are going through or have gone through. And there's so much
Right.
going on right now
Yeah.
that we feel out of control. We feel like we can't be enough. We can't do enough. I was thinking back on times in my life when I just kind of had to, take a really hard look at where I was in my life and just realizing how disconnected I was to what I really wanted to be doing and what I really
Yeah.
wanted to be how I wanted to be living my life, just like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, when at the end of my career in computer security, I had been working in the corporate world and I hated it. I literally hated it. And everything about it was bad. I mean, I loved the people I worked with. I enjoyed it was fun work in a lot of ways. And I learned a lot. And like I said, the people were amazing, most of them, except for the bosses. I mean, the bosses, I don't know if anybody else has experienced this in the corporate world, but my experience was the immediate management was sociopathic, and the overhead management was psychopathic. I mean,
Yeah.
almost to a T. There were a few different people. Like, I mean, the guy that hired me was a dear friend and was really a great, wonderful guy. But then they immediately reorganized, and it was a sociopath.
Ugh.
Um, but all that just really led me to a moment in my life where I was compelled to really, look at myself and say, why am I doing this? What should I be doing? What is my calling? And that was really, I actually went
Uh-huh.
to a spiritual retreat, and one of the concentrations was, what is your calling? And wow, that broke me open. It broke me open. And
Mhm.
I think there were a lot of days that, just like you, I felt like I was raw. I was wide open. I was raw, and I had no idea what I was doing or why. And I was crying a lot
Yeah.
myself, and just retreating, escaping. It had a very, very big impact on my marriage, and it was really hard for a while. And we were both going through a lot, I think. And so, anyway, yeah, I hear you, and thank you for sharing that. And so, tell us more. What do you think is the next thing going to happen, or what? Yeah, what else is in your heart right now?
Well, and, you and I talked about a lot of this on Friday, and I've had the weekend to still think more about it. And one of the pieces for me that was very apparent is, uh, I want to be forming safe space so that I can truly be myself. And
Yeah.
that is, for some of you who know, like, my daughter has health issues. So, there's a lot of pieces to my own life that it has to shift because of how we manage her health safety. And, that is hard. That is
Yeah.
very hard. And so for the folks out there who have kids with disabilities or going through, very charged health times, like, it's also, you don't get to be you because you're taking care of someone else or an
Right.
elder who is, going through things that you need to be more protective about. And so how does that reflect on who I am? How do I get to still be true to myself while also being supportive of someone else? And like I mentioned at the beginning, my son lives with his father, and I I was heartbroken that all the ways that I mask around my ex-husband is happening to me again with my son. I have to,
Mm.
like, shut things down because my whimsy irritates them.
Oh, and that's one of the parts I love.
Yeah, I just realized my family is not into my whimsy, man. Oof. They're not team Annalouiza for sure. So, it's also very stressful for folks who are young and moving into this world. It is excuse my French, my English, but it's so fucking hard right now.
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine being a teenager or a young adult in early 20s navigating the construct of your world, trying to kind of emerge into it as a fledgling, right? Setting
Right.
out to get into the world and make your little nest and, be true to your calling in life.
Yeah.
Um, we went through California, and I just felt like so sad too. I realized, like, the climate change, we're all kind of just moving around pretending it's not happening.
Mm.
And, I felt also very disturbed by we've hired a van and we drove around, and I was like, I'm part of the problem right now. Like, I'm driving a diesel van,
Mm.
and in my mind I was thinking, this is the last time I probably will see California,
Mm.
because unless, we get a safer way for us to be moving around and supporting local people with their environmental pieces. We spent 2 nights in Redwood Forest, and I just had to hug
Mm.
them and just say,
Yeah.
"I know you're thirsty, and I know you're tired, and I know you're dry, and
Yeah.
I I see you. Like, it just hurts me so deeply, right? So, there's that climate grief that was
Yeah.
occurring with me a week ago. Just, the heat, the animals that we saw who were struggling. We saw some kinda sickly birds. We saw a lot of dead
Mm.
birds, and there's some books that I've read in the last few years, it's very dystopian, and I'm like, "Why are we all just still kind of pretending that life is normal?" You
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
I'm trying to be normal for my kid, and yet I think he knows too, like, it's hard,
Sure. Sure.
you know?
I think, yeah, I think everybody's feeling that, it's like, we've talked about this, when people die in our lives and we look around and say, "How can everybody still be doing what they're doing?"
Yes.
How can this still
Yes.
be, getting up?
Functioning.
How can
Yeah.
people be driving down the street when my mom just died,
Mhm. Mhm.
And it feels like that deep inside a lot, because the earth is dying, or the earth is suffering. I don't know if it's
Suffered,
dying.
yes.
Maybe not dying, but suffering and in pain, and you can feel it if you open yourself to it.
Mhm.
And we, as lovers of the planet, lovers of the
The
everything,
web of life.
yeah, the divine. If we, I guess in a way, the reason we keep acting normal is because otherwise we'd just be laying on the ground screaming all the time, because it's so deep, it's so heavy, it's so hard. And yeah, so I guess part of what this conversation is about is acknowledging that we feel that pain and that we feel that suffering, and that in our own lives, sometimes where that rises up is like, what am I doing?
Mhm.
And am I really being as much of service as I can be? And you mentioned the word local. I love that because the idea of supporting each other on a or on a like a micro local level,
Mhm.
mutual aid kind of groups is one that we read a lot about. There's some really great books out there about that, and I think given that the planet can't sustain itself in the way we're living right now, um, that's going to end up being all that's left at some point.
Yeah.
And so the more we can do now to create those communities and those local groups of people helping
Mhm.
each other in every way. I just
Mhm.
saw, with all the fires that are going on, I just read an
Mhm.
article about insurance companies are
Mhm.
um, pulling out of areas because they're of fire danger. And that makes a lot of sense. I
Mhm.
wouldn't want to be there if I was an insurance company. Of course, those guys
Mhm.
are stealing lots of money, and I don't
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
honor them very much. But but
Mhm.
again, I've often wondered if there wouldn't be a way, and I'm pretty sure I've heard of ways that we could do mutual aid local insurance. Like
Oh.
just support each other locally, create a local
Mhm.
group of people that's how insurance started, after all.
Exactly.
you
That's right.
know,
Small groups
um,
of community members who
yeah,
were trying to make sure
sailors, yeah,
everybody got taken care of if
cared
something
for,
happened.
yeah. So maybe again, all of these things that we count on, the insurance, the food,
Yeah.
lifestyles of water, all the things, shelter, if we could find a way to be more supportive in our local community,
Yeah.
maybe that would be a way.
I'm gonna also say that, one of so I didn't tell you this, but, I took my son to Berkeley. We had it and we stayed I think it was a block and a half from where you and I met at seminary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so I was exactly. Oh, no, and I told my son, "Oh, this is where we'd come over for french fries after class," and, we'd all sit around those tables and discuss what we had been going through for the day, and
Mhm.
but the hotel that we stayed at was this tiny little hotel, and I got up really early and I had my coffee, and all these elders started kind of appearing and, pulling chairs, and there were like 8 people around a little table.
Mm.
And, of course, I said hello, and of course, like, I don't even know, I think within, like, 3 minutes, we were talking about our podcast and death and dying.
We can't help ourselves.
We just can't. But, this gentleman is, he took a picture of my phone when I brought up end of life conversations,
Nice.
and, I ended up spending, like, 2 hours sitting there with the
Mm.
the myriad of people who would come by, say their good mornings, drink their coffees, head on out, and at one point, my son came down and shout out to Rick, I got his name, who was wearing his keffiyeh and his Palestine hat, and he showed up and he was chatty, and he spoke to my son, and he spoke to my son as, like, a respected and respectful elder. He
Wow.
respected soil, he respected the path and spoke
Mhm.
into it, and I realized, like, what a treasure that moment for me is because as a mom,
Mhm.
my voice is not as interesting as, friends and neighbors,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
speaking about mutual aid, I think that having people be brave enough to step into a stranger's life and just respectfully and honestly and delightfully, like, share their lives was
yeah.
really wonderful. Like, he told us, like, how he ended up in college. He was a conscientious objector,
Mm,
and his dad was a Navy, officer, and so there was a lot of, conflict there and
yeah,
friction,
yeah,
and, I just when I we ended up seeing him twice. We saw him at the end of the day, and I just thought, "That is what I want more of in my life." Like,
yeah,
others willing to speak into my life, my little family's life, and,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know
And
yeah.
speak to important subjects and not be talking about, the water and or the rain or whatever, you know? I mean, I love that too. I just came back from a spiritual camp, where everybody you meet, you smile and you got that heart connection and you sit down and you have a conversation about love and compassion and caring for each other and caring about the earth and these deep important conversations that and that's not strangers but the idea that you could do that in every day like that's maybe one of the reactions or ways to address this sense of brokenheartedness that and broken openness is that
Yeah.
we notice when we're walking around in the world. And this is, I think I've said this before on the podcast. My prayer every day is to, how can I be of service?
Mhm.
And part of that is just opening to what's going on with this human being I'm in touch with right now. And, why are they angry or why are they weeping or why are they just looking, staring off into the sky and being willing to be vulnerable and open and brave, courageous enough to connect. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like you said, that's the kind of mutual aid, local
It
help
is.
that we can do for each other and that everybody needs.
Everybody needs it. It's interesting that you mentioned that because going back to Berkeley brought up a lot of my memories too,
Yeah, yeah.
because my I was in class, I think 2 weeks after my sister died,
I
and
remember, yeah.
we had a class one afternoon where grief just took over. I just couldn't do a class, sit there and again, it's that moment of, like, I don't I have, like, cognitive dissonance around
Yeah, yeah.
I my sister's gone, and I'm sitting in class talking about I don't know what it was, you know, spirituality and sexuality. I don't know. It was just, like, some random
Yeah,
class, and,
yeah.
um, I
I remember you
left.
left and didn't come back for a
I
while.
didn't come back, and I had planned on coming back,
Yeah.
and I wound up I can't even describe where I went.
Mm.
But I walked all over Berkeley, and I just the only thing I think of if I look at myself in that moment, I was bawling like a calf. I was walking down the street crying, openly, like, just sobbing, and not a single human being
Mm.
wanted to see me.
Mhm.
Everybody, like, cleared away, crossed the street, averted their eyes,
Yeah, yeah.
which, I wasn't expecting anybody to swing by and give me a hug, but it
But
is
wouldn't it have
so
been lovely? Yeah,
yes,
wouldn't that have been amazing
yes.
if somebody would have stopped and said, "Hey,
What's going on?
what can I do for you?"
Yeah, no, it's just and so
Yeah, and we
I
could do
do
that.
I mean, I do that. I sometimes,
Yeah.
like, I have to stop and, actually, I have another story to tell you. LA, leaving at 4 in the morning, or last night, and we're in a lift heading to the airport. It's all quiet, driver my son is on his headphones, whatever, but I'm looking out the window, and there's a woman sleeping on a park bench, and there's a man who is, like, sussing out her stuff and who she is. He's, like, literally, like, just
Mm.
peering around her, and I was, like, upset because I could
Mhm.
you could visibly see it's a woman and it's a
Yeah.
man, and I felt a little protective of her,
Sure.
And so right as the car started pulling away, I rolled down my window and I yelled, uh, "Get away from her," like really loud. And the guy like turned around and did this, and he raised his arms and he didn't know where the voice came from, and he's just like looking around. And the driver says, "Wow, that was a good call." He's like, "I was watching it too."
Mhm.
And the piece that surprised me was that he didn't say anything,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
watching it all play out too, but he doesn't say, "Give me a second. We need to figure this out." Which
Yeah.
is if I were driving, I'd be like, "We're
We
stopping."
we need a minute here, yeah.
Yeah. So, I feel like so many people just literally stare, rubberneck the accidents of all of us walking down the street, but are
Yeah.
not brave enough to just stop and say, "Are you okay?
Yeah.
Can I do
Yeah.
something for you? I
Yeah.
see that you're crying." Like, and I could easily say, like, "My sister just died. I'm just grieving." And somebody could say, "I'm really sorry for your loss. Like, be safe, have some water," whatever. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be a big deal, but nobody
Yeah.
wants to see any of us as we're in the moment. Or nobody wants to watch the trees dying. Nobody wants to like witness these animals who are struggling. Where are the birds? Where are the ant? Like everybody,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
nobody wants to
Mhm.
stop and say, "This is not okay."
Yeah. 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 It's uncomfortable, and, it's
Mhm.
because I think another thing is that it triggers reactions in ourselves about all our own pain and suffering. We don't want to look at that. That's why we're walking around with our head in our phones. And I was thinking the other day as the ash was blocking the sun,
That's right.
this this these are the remains of animals, plants,
Yeah.
trees. The earth is, even maybe humans,
Or
um,
houses and
houses,
yeah.
yeah, that are floating around here just to
Mhm.
remind us that, don't forget this is
Mhm.
going on, and as painful as that is, it's a way to not just ignore it, but to stop and acknowledge that, yeah, this is we're witnessing the um, dissolution of this unsustainable culture that we've created in the skies, blocking the sun, and something deeply symbolic and horrible about that, you know. But
I know. So
again, don't look away,
don't look up at it's interesting as you say that because I think the three of us, Sam and you and I talked a couple of episodes ago about collective grief rituals. And,
Yeah,
when these
yeah,
are happening, who's brave enough to say, "Hey, let's go sit in the ash and name who might be in it,"
wow, yeah,
right? Like
wow, yeah, yeah,
collectively, publicly acknowledge the loss of both land and fauna and, the people's lives who are, torn apart from fires.
yeah, yeah, thousands of people, yeah. Yeah, wow, that's an incredible thought, an idea, something I'm gonna definitely do at this point.
Mhm.
I mean, right now we're in clear skies for the first time in a few days, but in Oregon when we were at this camp, it was unhealthy levels, and it's interesting to think about that, just like again the metaphor. It's unhealthy to be out in this, and it's unhealthy for us to have the Earth be at this point and the planet be at this
Right.
stage where it's burning up. It's falling apart. It's literally dissolving
Yeah.
in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but to put on our masks and go sit in a circle and honor all of the parts that are floating around us, that's
Yeah.
an incredibly amazing idea. I think it's a good one.
It's a good one, and, it just brings me back to I went to Dachau and Auschwitz many, many, many
Mm,
years ago,
yeah,
and there was a little tiny piece somewhere I read on some, you know, fly or whatever, but the local communities outside of these concentration camps would smell
yeah,
the people, would see the ash as well, and they knew what was happening, but they were just like, "No, no, no, no,
yeah,
no," right?
yeah, yeah,
And so imagine the amount of trauma that it's like being, like, dumped not dumped, but it's being accumulated in our spirits as we are just not acknowledging what is actually happening around us.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I just saw a meme where somebody had next to the picture of people outside of Dachau who, it was like a air picture. So Dachau's here and people are living here, right? And the people are just going about their lives, and choosing not to pay attention to that. And next to
Mhm.
that was a picture of a suburban United States place next door to a ICE detention center.
Right.
And it's not different,
Mhm.
they're not burning them, obviously, but they are starving them and they are
Mhm.
killing them,
Mhm. Mhm.
and they're treating them like shit, and they don't deserve to be there. And they're
Mhm.
our brothers and sisters. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, again, we can't look away. Um, well, although on the other hand, I don't judge you or judge anyone for needing to look away and to just take time and to be, centered. But that's the best way we can be a
Mhm.
part of the solution, is to
Mhm.
take time for ourselves, get grounded, get centered, and then step back in and don't stop
Right.
working to change it in whatever way we can.
Well,
Um,
and, to your point about not looking away from these attention centers too, it's like, you may not be the person who could I just read an article this morning from people who are driving to Hudson, Colorado, which is 45
mm,
minutes away from here to, uh, you know, talk about this new ICE detention center that is trying to be formed,
yeah.
and I thought, "Oh my gosh, there's no way I could do that." Like, I would want to, but I that's a lot of chunk of time driving and being out of my house that I can't really do
Mhm,
these days.
mhm,
But what I would suggest if you are ready to look, but you can't do the closest to the action,
mhm.
support those who are in the action,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Send
yeah,
a jug of water and some sandwiches and say, "Here, this is for you to take care of yourself as you're doing the holy work," right?
yeah, yeah,
You know,
exactly.
do whatever I feel like and even I wanna be doing more of my part for those small pieces because yeah, well, because
Yeah,
it's important for all of us to constantly be getting back in the fray and helping out.
in whatever way we can, yeah. I mean, when I was younger, back in those days that I was talking about where I started thinking I needed to do something different, um, and I really did deeply open up to that and ended up in seminary. That's where I met
That's
you,
right. That's right.
but there were times then, nowadays especially, I'd say this is true because where, I wonder about the futility of marching, or the futility. I still go and sing, and lift my voice and raise my voice sometimes, but I also know that there are times that I feel like I just, again, like you said, just need to support people in whatever way I can.
Mhm.
I can send money, or I can, like you said, send food, or it's the same thing as when somebody's grieving and you don't go up to them and say, "How
What do
can
you
I help
want?
you?" You go up and say, "Here's a sandwich."
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. And you understand what is actually needed, what you would need in that space, and you give it to them. You deliver it to them. Maybe you go and say, "I know you want to go to this protest today. Can I watch your kids for you?"
Mhm.
Or anything like that. And so, or can it just, is there something?
Or, I mean, so first of all, some protests feel futile because the police are called to help out. So I'm like, that's
Yeah,
not really a
right,
protest.
right.
Um, but the other piece, is if you can't support in some of the myriad ways, you could also give a phone number and say, "Hey, if anything happens,
Yeah,
write my phone number on your arm and I'll help you figure stuff out." Because
yeah,
I need those kind of people in my life. Like, "Can I call
yeah.
you?"
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's many ways. I think all of us and all of you in the audience can probably think of your own ways. We'd love to hear from you, by the way.
Mhm.
Um, so, join our Substack and get involved in our chat there. Um,
And
yeah,
talk about your grief
yeah, tell us
process.
about
What's
your
going on with
stories.
you? That's right.
Yeah, and how are you addressing
Mhm.
the climate grief that you have, or the concerns about your path, or your midlife or end of life crisis, wherever you might be. Yeah. So we'd love to hear from you, and really appreciate all of you out there. And Thank you so much. Please subscribe, tell all your
Yes.
friends, and like us. And yeah, we love to be liked.
I need it after being with my teenager for 10 days.
Yeah, right. Especially, yeah.
Yes.
Give a special like to Annalouiza.
Ooh.
We love you all. Take care.
Adios.
Adios.
Grief and loss, conversations about the end of life.